Alright, welcome back to Dents and Dings. Yesterday, obviously, I rebuilt this engine here to get it working again. And we got it working again by changing out the gaskets on there. I still need to work on it a little bit to make sure it stays running. If you were watching, it died a few times, but we're going to work on that. And then, so I had mentioned, the plan was to put the engine somewhere in this general area and to power this wheel of this once electric scooter, which of course I got for free. Now, that plan could work, but it could be difficult. Plus, with this little wheel, it's not going to get you very far very fast. This engine, I had a sprocket on this wheel for that, but with the bigger wheel it made more sense. I did buy a smaller sprocket I intended to use on here, but just today I got another idea of how we can make this even dumber. What if Okay, I'll explain it. Okay, so what if I chop off about here and here. We're going to get rid of this again. This is just welded on with a nut and a couple other things, but yeah, we're going to take off this rear spiel and slap her on here. I don't know if it's going to weld too well. One of these two things are probably aluminum, but we'll make it work. We'll make it work. I'll bolt it on if I have to, but I think that's my new plan. See, gas-powered scooters are a little overdone, aren't they? Right? And is this overdone? Is this overdone? I don't know. I didn't look it up. But that's what we're going to do, I think. It'll be able to go a little bit faster. Obviously, it's probably not going to start from a takeoff, but it's a scooter. Kick it along to start it off. And, yeah. But first I'm going to work on the engine a bit to make sure it's running. Does that work? I'll do that off camera, though, so you don't have to deal with more of that. Alright, so something I noticed is nothing wrong with the engine, really, but if we do plan on using this rear sort of triangle piece, yeah, I'm looking at it right now, that spot right there. As you can tell, someone, no, not naming names, tried to weld there, and it didn't go too well. See, it just sort of melted through the frame, which isn't great. But I think we're going to do the right thing and pretty much just ignore that. It was supposed to be a little peg here because one that's had an engine on it, it no longer had pedals to it. So I needed somewhere to put my feet, and that's where they were supposed to go. And obviously the other one fell off, broke off, and yeah, while I was doing it, I melted through. So, well, that's just something to know. Yeah, so where I'm going to cut, I haven't quite decided. I would like to keep this brake, if at all possible, because that was one thing I was worried about with the whole kid bike wheel on the back of the scooter. The kid bike wheel did not have a brake. Well, it has a brake. It's a pedal brake, though, so obviously with that you pedal backwards and the brake engages. Because this doesn't have pedals, I could figure out a way to get the brake to work, but it's kind of a hassle that way. Rather than do that, if I use this, it's already got that little caliper brake style. So I probably used the wrong term there, but anyways, it's got that brake. So I just throw some pads on there, reuse all the cables and whatever, and there we go. This bike is not quite worth restoring, I don't think. It's ancient, and someone kind of damaged that there, so. And of course it's got an engine sort of welded to it, and you know, things. Yeah, so that's the plan. I'm just going to, and yeah, and that's the plan. Oh, I figured I should take you in and look at some of these little fun parts about this engine here. I mentioned the other day this sprocket here. This sprocket here, if I can get it to focus, there we go. Yeah, that's not how it comes. It comes with that the one in front, and I welded that to the other one behind it, and that's what drives my chain. I'd say it's safe. Every tooth is welded onto it. Looks like they're complete, most of them, and yeah, so that's good. Of course, we rebuilt this. We changed the gasket right there, gasket there, two of them here on the carburetor actually, and a gasket on the exhaust. This is still hot, so I'm not going to touch it. One thing I noticed is that we are getting, right where there's that weld patch that I put on there, the blob, it's leaking there, exhaust leak, so figure out something for that. And it's also got quite a bit of blow-by. That's a two-stroke for you, but if we clean that up, that might help a bit. I also need to fix the fuel mixture a bit. And of course we don't have a kill switch because I broke the wire for it, so I'll figure something out for that. I got the ground for the kill switch, but I don't think that's what we're gonna end up using anyways. This is the throttle I had with it. Came with the kit bike in the first place. Throttle, kill switch. That actually seems stuck. Maybe that's why it was dying on me the other day. So yeah, of course we're going to reuse the fuel tank here because why not? Everything else can pretty much be scrapped from this bike. Even that kickstand is kind of garbage. I was messing around with that quite a lot last night. So that's what I got. Probably no need to use the speedometer cable. I don't even think that works right. Plus it's in kilometers per hour because, of course, why wouldn't they make it in miles per hour when you're ordering from the US? Look at that though. Sports. Anyways, so yeah, that's the general plan. Take that engine, figure out a way to bolt it to that. Hopefully by using the triangle here, I can actually somehow figure out how to mount the engine to it. Probably weld a couple plates to it, maybe even reuse those. But yeah. It's looking like a normal bike now. So now we just gotta cut probably here and here. I don't think I'll need this center post thing. I was thinking about it, but it doesn't seem necessary. Right. Probably pull this out of the way in case I need to use it. See if I could just break this peg off. Maybe not without breaking the fork, which would be useful to keep. Oh, right, that'll have to be cut. Okay, so how to do this then? Yeah, I can get there. Safety glasses, always safety first. Get to. Oh, okay. Here we go. Right. There we go. Almost. There we go. There you have it. One almost ready to go scooter wheel. Okay, so I've gotten a few things figured out, worked out. I removed the wheel, took off the chain, put some W40 on it. So I thought I would show you one of the reasons why I think this would be a better idea than my previous one. Aside from it being stupid as well. But, so, like I mentioned, let me just get this focused. Like I mentioned, the brake on here is a simple pedal brake, and that fell. Anyways, simple pedal brake, and, well, that's how it's activated by the chain, and that would be difficult to implement. And another reason is, look at what I had to do to this thing to make it fit right where I needed it to. See the, harder to see over here, but at least here you can see it. They're kind of both like this. I had to give extra space. There's a bit of a gap there between the hub and the bolts here. I had them sort of locked together, you know, just jammed. And so this is where the fork of the scooter went, and I don't like how thin this whole I guess you wouldn't call it a stud, but anyways, well, I'll just say stud anyways, for the rear wheel of the kid's bike. It doesn't work too great. I think it's a bit too thin. I want something a bit heavier, and I'll get that with the bicycle tire, because that is quite a lot stronger. I was thinking about whether or not I wanted to use the front wheel or the rear one. I think the rear one will work best just because it's already pre-spaced with those extra sprockets there. They'll pretty much just be vestigial. We'll ignore those, pretend they don't exist. I will be changing out the sprocket for actually driving the engine that's on the other side there, just because I don't think this engine powers that very well. So there's already quite a lot of, well, that little bit there, of course, changes the ratio of the gears. So going from that size to that size doesn't get you a whole lot of power. It'll get you torque, but not a lot of actual speed. So I'm going to throw on the smaller sprocket that I had in mind, on the other side, of course, and I'll unbolt that one, take it off, swap them out. Hopefully they're cross-compatible. They should be. I made sure they're for the same chain. I'll double check with the chain and the sprocket, but I think that's what we're looking at. Yeah. I did cut off that extra peg that I mentioned before, because that won't be needed. And I might keep that little chain tensioner depending on where I decide to cut it. Obviously, I mentioned I wanted to reuse the brake on this thing, so I think we're going to stick with that there and, well, clean it up a bit, maybe grind that extra chunk off, paint it up, maybe do something about that little hole. I do need to figure out where I need to cut though, and that'll be difficult because I don't want to have to deal with I want the wheel to stop before it gets to this bar here, and will be difficult, of course, because the wheel is, well, let's just bring it over here. There. That's about what it needs to look like. Maybe a little farther back because it kind of encroaches on there. But I think that would be around optimal, or at least as optimal as it can be. So it'll be long. And yeah, the rear wheel will basically be right behind you, so don't lean back. Maybe I'll throw a seat on there. Who knows? But that's the plan. But just look at this thing. It looks hilarious. This will be great. So I think I may have maybe sort of figured out a plan for this thing. I showed that little clip earlier, but it might be a better idea to lengthen this, I had figured, because if it's all the way up here, it can be difficult to stand on. And if it's flipped over like I had it, then you got this sticking up out of nowhere, which could be a pain to deal with. And I figured this way, this orientation, you get a little bit more stability, and it's a bit longer. Whether or not the longer wheelbase will help or not, who knows? It'll at least make it more comfortable to stand on when you're riding, plus make enough room for the engine itself. Wherever that will go. Haven't figured that out yet. We'll get there. We'll burn that bridge before we get to it. Don't worry. So yeah, I think this is kind of the plan. I'll cut these two about this length, and I'll need to figure out something for extending this out to get to there, just so I have a little extra support. I was thinking I could maybe add a little, like, I don't know if I could get a spring that stretch rather than compress for like a shock, but that I think will just end up being too much of a hassle, and I don't think I have anything I could use. So yeah, we'll just lop it off and weld an extra bit of about 1.5 feet onto it, and that of course makes the scooter, this would have been of the original length, about roughly. It's about 1/3 of this, no, well, of the total size, it's about 1/3 of it, so, that's good, probably, maybe not, I don't know. This scooter actually has a kickstand, which I wouldn't have been able to use with the kids wheel, but if I get this just right, I can get the level better, so I can actually use the kickstand with it. Not that I think it'll be too effective when you got an engine probably up here somewhere. That top weight probably won't be much help, but it's an option. It's possible that I can get this enough so it would actually work like a spring, work as a sort of shock, but we'll see. I probably can't plan that much. Now, if you'll admire the handiwork I've done here, I've taken the rear triangle thing that I had, and this is essentially what it will look like. It's not attached now, and it should be cool enough to handle. But yeah, so what I've done is I've kind of, eyeballed it in. I made a mark of where I needed to cut these off. I ended up folding them instead. I thought that would be easier. I could use them as part of the actual frame that comes out. So this is what I have. For now I've just made took a wedge out of this and heated it up, folded it over, and I'll weld it in place so it's sturdier, and hopefully it'll work. Again, I'm not quite sure if this is aluminum or not. That could be a challenge. I should probably get a magnet and try that. Be right back. Okay, I do not have a magnet readily accessible, so we'll worry about that later. That's a future me problem. So again, like I mentioned, this folded over goes like that onto there. I think I want it about here, so I still will need to lengthen it. There's still about, it'll be difficult to see there, but there's about 2.5 inches between the end of the actual frame here and the posts here. So I could do that, otherwise I could just move it forward, tack them onto there. There's actually some pretty decent points for it, but I don't know if I want to do that just quite yet, because I did intend for it to be like that. So I'll have to think about this and see what I have for scraps that I could weld to that to lengthen it. It won't be very structurally sound at all, especially not with my welds, but it'll do, probably. But yeah, so gotta tack that and do that. But yeah, I think that turned out pretty well, at least for the quick fit that I did. They're not perfect, but they're close enough. These are just for structure. These are the important bits. Right? I still got the brake thing here. The brake will be kind of right there. I gotta be careful not to step on it, but it'll work. And yeah, that's about it. The wheel should still fit in here because I didn't modify the fork here. There's still plenty of a gap there. Now, after that's mounted, of course, I'll need to worry about fitting the engine, which I'm not quite sure how I'm going to do that. So I'll probably take posts, or make posts or something that'll kind of stand off of here, and probably from both sides come up and actually hold the engine in place. Maybe find a place for that chain tensioner to sit too, just for a little help. Mm-hmm. Yep, that'll do it. It's not great. It's not perfect. But it is awesome. Just look at that piece of art. Like so, right. Harry of course had that frame that I cut up, and I also threw some L brackets on there to sort of extend it, which might not have been my best idea. But the worst idea is that this frame does not like to weld to things. So I'm going to have to do something to strengthen that little connection there. But I think the bike frame went connected pretty well to the L brackets, actually. Doesn't look great. Nothing looks great. I'm experimental welder, we'll say. Artistic licensing, you know, all that. And as we look around here, you can tell the wheel is not, in fact, straight. There's a little clearance. Should be enough. I do think I'll need to change the wheel. This one looks a little bent. It doesn't spin straight, and it's not just because it's off-centered with the frame, because if that were the case, it would still spin in the perfect circle, just kitty wampus. So this spins, it's just not aligned correctly, so it kind of wobbles. Part of that's also just because the frame is not sturdy, because a monkey welded it, essentially. So yeah. But just look at that. It's beautiful. I have just cleaned it up a bit here, and I could weld it, maybe just try to hope that fixes the problem. But I'm gonna lean towards just wrapping it and hoping that fixes the problem. I have that, and I also have just some regular exhaust heat wrap, and between the two of those, hopefully that fixes our leaking issue. Yeah, alright. Alright, there's our sort of the heat patch, the exhaust patch. Now we're just gonna throw on the heat wrap. It's nice and green. I meant to put it on my motorcycle, but it ended up only being an inch wide, which is pretty inefficient, so I decided against it. I still have the roll though, so I guess we'll use it on here. It probably won't take too much just for that distance, but yeah. I'm gonna handle this stuff with gloves because fiberglass is no fun when it's in your fingers. Alright. Pipe is wrapped and ready to go-ish. I don't quite know how these metal sort of ties work. So I looped them through, and I looped them through a couple more times, and we're hoping that's good. So, that's how it looks. I had a slight issue when testing it, though. If you'll just take a look over here. Yeah, that's what was holding the engine in place. At least temporarily, because this was just the test bench, essentially. Yeah, I guess I tried a bit too hard trying to get it to start. And, well, that's not great. Suboptimal, one might say. Well, that'll be fun to sort of figure out. On the bright side, with the scooter, I think it'll have to be mounted from the underside anyways, so maybe that's not going to be too big of an issue. Maybe some weld it can help. JB weld. But, yeah, I'll get that figured out too, I suppose. But, yeah, look at that. It looks nice. Right now I'm not getting any fuel flow, so it wasn't starting up, so I'll figure that out. Well, first I gotta figure this out, then I figure that out. That might be something for next time, though. Alright. Okay, I don't think this is gonna be too big of an issue, because the way I plan on mounting the engine will be basically just from underneath. And underneath, we have plenty of mounting points. There's, well, 5 right there, 3 and 2, so that works out great. And I could possibly even use this at the end of here if I pass a bolt through it. I don't think it will interfere with the chain, depending on just how long it is, but yeah, I think that'll be the new plan. We'll just use these. I won't worry about trying to do anything with that, because honestly I don't think anything needs to be mounted up there anyways. It should all be fine on the bottom, and these look a lot sturdier, a bit heavier duty than just these little 2 points. But yeah, that it does stink, of course, because now I can't use my test bench, the bicycle I should say. So that'll be fun to deal with. I might just need to make a special mount for it temporarily as I continue working on trying to get this to run perfectly, or as close to perfectly as possible. But hey, the wrap looks nice, and I did end up with some fiberglass in my hand too, which is also nice. Yeah, I'm gonna be dealing with that for a while, but yeah. Alright, that should do it for this week's episode. Obviously I have a bit of work cut out for me, but mistakes happen when you do these things, and I think I lucked out. I can still move on with this project and hopefully get it running, eventually. Might be a few more episodes down the line. I'll definitely do some work to it off camera. I definitely got to reinforce that frame. I'm sure even on screen it looks awful. It's not great riding it either, but it stays. I was surprised it held, so looking good, but yeah, see you next time. Thanks for watching.